Nick comes back, I think. Right. I think let's have a few moments of silence just to clear our minds of thoughts about computers, things that we should have sorted out before coming here, so we can make our minds receptive to this act of worship and to the consideration of the lifetime work of a colleague of ours. If we just attend to the breathing, that's all. One doesn't need to control it, just observe it and be aware of the weight of one's body bearing down through the chair onto the earth, connecting us. And if we can begin to move our consciousness inwards to our center of being, where there is a certain calm and access to intuitive wisdom. Dios bigger la helga kindir, Mary og min himmelke hemdalar. Lauten wir till enke ossa gudenum folker og landa vare von faring jordes atlen, satigweg osrum vopro deler auszettes gillistige uten weet, sen we nu kommen in Lauten wir snor in tro om is edrum.
Parce que il y a de plus en plus de mères qui ne veulent plus parrainer parce qu'effectivement, ils ont beaucoup de choses à craindre, ils peuvent être attaqués parce que si...
Enigszins snurren bakkie wees. Venster raffi ulle se matisem kjærlager oss nu og hinga til. Motaki legge vadaradi se vet oss at skilje og efter at framkomma.
Appelen of weer welkom naar alle Woudige Rudy, Askaats of Waarheid. Amma in Noordfried. Idrecht, Krieg, Odin, Heil, de Videum Westmica, Adventure of Vidia Starting to Dirkena. Amma ad Ostam, af de Tingere. Nana, Balde, Heil, de Videum Westmica, Adventure of Vidia Starting to Dirkena.
Amma is la recherche. Un programme et d'une c'est dans le sens inverse. Je fais de la politique. C'est qui est en train d'être me concerne dans mon programme, je veux juste 1000 feuilles administratives qui nous coûtent un argent fou au niveau de ne comprennent plus rien de qui c'est quoi. Dans le programme que je propose
From vitun reinist vinasala met de munnen en sigurs hava af sjálfum sér. En hún ekki vinur hennar með þeirra, hafa ekki sigurs af sjálfum sér.
Those who have conquered their mind will prove to be one of their greatest friends. For those who have failed to do so, it will prove to be one of their greatest enemies.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm sorry if anyone saw the name of today's alpha bloat without reading the explanation and thought that we would be focusing attention upon the worship of the elves, the alpha, the os or Svat alpha. Today, in addition to our normal offering of worship, we'll be offering thanks for the life of one of our community, who may be called an Alf, since he has given more than he's taken. And as I understand from the lecture I attended, given by Professor John Lindahl, this is an appropriate word by which to honour someone. Osred, that you can see in the picture. Sadly, it's the only picture I managed to find of him. First contacted me in 2005, asking me if I'd give an interview for his magazine Renewal, principally about my paintings. Anyone who's ever produced a physical magazine knows how much work it is to do. Osred has produced this intelligent compendium of news-related and more general and well-researched articles for 2 decades, I think, since 1994, posting it out across the world from his home in Victoria, Australia, and single-handedly, I think. The magazine is about, I quote, the organic spiritual beliefs and religion of the indigenous peoples of Northern Europe, as embodied in the Eddas, and as they have found expression in the wisdom and historic expression of these peoples. That is the legal definition of Odinism in Australia, and also I think in Britain, and it's the term he would use to describe his faith. I'm not sure whether he had a part in framing the definition, but he was definitely instrumental in gaining its official acceptance in Australia legally. For reasons of semantic clarity, precedence, and linguistic integrity, I prefer the term Aussertrue as a designation for the same thing, but I fully recognise the validity of other terms such as Odinism, heathenism, and Northern tradition. This is, I think, a very instructive diagram. I hope everyone can see it, which Osred sent me at one point, which illustrates the broadness and the antecedents of Osred's conception. I think it perhaps would be worthwhile if I read this, as it's not that clear, perhaps. Sometime between 400 and 35,000 years ago and 230,000 years ago, a young woman of modern appearance and brain structure died beside the River Thames. Her religious beliefs, if any, can only be guessed at. 35,000 years ago, her descendants and only ancestors, known as Cro-Magnons, painted unsurpassed artwork on cave walls in Northern Europe. Some of their religious beliefs can be inferred from these paintings. The mythology in which their beliefs were embedded took varying forms as the descendants of Cro-Magnons spread out all over the world, not only throughout Europe as the glaciers retreated, but through the Middle East, Northern Africa, India, Asia, and perhaps even beyond, as suggested by the recent discoveries in America. Yet the common wellspring of these diverging streams remains obvious, despite superficial differences in their courses. Here are a few of those streams, and from the left we start with Greek and Roman. Intellectual pagan influence on Western culture, particularly from the Renaissance to the 19th century. Vedic Indian, Rig Veda and so forth. Modern Vedic purism. I'm assuming he means the movements like Arya Samaj, things like that. Finnish, modern Finnish paganism. Baltic, modern Baltic paganism. Iranian, contemporary Yazdanism. Alveism, Yazidism, and Kafiri beliefs. I think that refers to various pre-Islamic pagan traditions. Yazdanism and Yazidism share belief in reincarnation, avatars, and they have a tradition of sun worship. Alevism is, I think, a Kurdish tradition found mainly in Turkey of a similar caste, and Kafiri is a more general term, I think, for um, uh, pre-Islamic indigenous practices and peoples. Then to the right of that, there's Slavic, modern Slavic paganism, and finally Celtic and Germanic, including Scandinavian and Anglo-Saxon. And going down, surviving accounts such as the Eddas, survivals in folk custom and culture, Christian heresies and witchcraft, early modern science, anatomy, and so forth. And this penultimate layer, modern evolutionary thought, modern evolutionary philosophic movements of human liberation from Judeo-Christianity, from Nietzsche onwards, modern evolutionary scientific movements of human liberation from Judeo-Christianity, from Mendel and Darwin onwards, modern social, cultural, artistic, political, spiritual and religious movements of human liberation from Judeo-Christianity. This, in this diagram, leads to Odinism with the definition that I previously enunciated. I think if I'd have seen the diagram without knowing the last step, I probably would have thought perhaps paganism would have come next. But that's an interesting to see, because it does reveal, as I said, the broadness and the antecedents of his large conception of Odinism as a contemporary structure of belief. All of his work I would describe as foundational in that it addresses the general issues that one hopes will later lead to a more concrete resolution. It's an attempt to clear the ground of things that he thinks are pernicious, to dig the foundations and to look at what kind of material should be considered as models for future rebuilding. In 2012, he said to me, he sent an email, and it conveyed the sad news that he'd been diagnosed with a nasty form of oral cancer, and that unless he submitted to what he described as a positively medieval procedure, he would be dead in 2 to 10 weeks. That was, as I say, 10 years ago. He refused the treatment that was offered, very wisely in hindsight, and he's still alive, though I don't know in what state of health, but he's in a sufficiently good state of health to have sent me an email when I invited him to come today and to give me some more details about his life. He has authored Odinism, Past, Present and Future, the Heathen Anthology, which is a remarkably good collection of poems that he considers represent this tradition, this spirit that he identifies with, Odinism. He's also published a book, Heathen Song, a collection of 60 folk songs, and he edited his fellow countryman Alexander Rudd Mill's The Callers, the Ancient Scandinavian Religion, and also 2 books by John Yole, who is the most significant figure in the revival of Germanic paganism in Britain. I think most of us will have met him at some point. This is Odinism and the Book of Bloods. It was John Yole who founded, with some other people, the Odinic Rite in England in 1973. Osred himself founded the Odinic Rite of Australia and was able to secure for it official status as a religious organisation in the eyes of the Australian Tax Office in 1995. And I understand that's the only official status a religion can have to be exempt from tax in Australia. The Book of Bloods is the collected liturgical text that Stubber used in the Bloods he led in his house in East London, which is the first I ever attended. For what it's worth, I don't use any words from his liturgies. I'd grown up with them in a sense, but I didn't find them such that I thought I should or needed to retain them. In retrospect, I think liturgies must evolve and grow out of actual belief and practice. They are, in a sense, the last thing that is done, not the first thing. And Stubber seems to have written let's say John Yole, who's also known as Stubber, to have written the Bloods as he imagined the liturgies might have been had paganism not collapsed, but instead had continued unbroken, inheriting antique phrases from the past. It was almost as if he had been composing the liturgy of a fictional religion to be used in a play. They have undoubted literary qualities set in the period that they were written, but there's a certain hollowness to them in my mind, which is natural because they were fashioned before the thing that they were supposed to clothe had a proper embodiment. Since his passing, the Odinic rite seems to have stagnated and contracted. I think to reopen the dialogue between us and the gods in concrete practice is the continuing challenge. If the text manages to do this, if it becomes itself sacred by having that power, that means it will have the ability to create devotees on its own. And I think we're some way from that, unfortunately. On the subject of liturgies, maybe it's worth mentioning that the Book of Bloods that the Odinist Fellowship issued some years ago, principally written or composed or put into order by Ralph Harrison, was also something that David Parry assisted with. I know that, which I wasn't aware of. Osred's publications in total represent, I think, better than anyone else's, the attitudes and forms of liturgical endeavour of the main lineage of attempted reconstruction or continuation. Curiously, or not, I don't know, Australia has one of the deepest rooted movements of Germanic neo-paganism. Alexander Rudd Mills, whom I've already mentioned, who lived between 1885 and 1964, was a barrister from Tasmania, and he may be regarded, as Osred calls him, the foremost pioneer of the 20th century Odinist revival. And Osred, I think, has the copyright on all his writings. Rereading the books that Osred has either personally authored or edited, I'm more impressed than I was when I read them first, with the richness of their references and the exceptional labour done in searching out relevant material and bringing them to publication. In particular with the anthology of poems, which attests to very wide reading, and his particular interest in Swinburne, which is surprising maybe. Although he's not someone who has directly addressed the deities in hymns or prayers, I don't think that's his particular way of union with the gods. His achievements towards the end of advancing a certain conception of Germanic paganism seems to me to be as great as that of anyone. At the altar, in the absence of any prayers that I'm aware of that he's written himself, I shall Say one that's based on one by Wyatt Caldenberg, who has had some contact with Osred, and I think can be regarded as in a similar tradition. I think this is one of the wisest and humblest things to appear in Osred's Odinism. He wrote, God is a word that is almost impossible to define. After nearly 2,000 years, the finest minds among Christian theologians have failed to agree on what they mean when they write about their own God. We are unlikely to do better. The poems today have been drawn from Osred's anthology, and I think it's so good I shall continue to draw on it from other blokes. So, with that introduction, let's go to the first one. I don't know whether anyone will be able to guess it from that. I certainly wouldn't. That is a picture by William Blake from his illustration to Dante's Inferno, illustrating Ulysses being consigned to the eighth circle. So we will be reading Ulysses by Tennyson. This is one of the longer poems in Osred's anthology, and Tennyson wrote it in the wake of the death of his great friend from Cambridge, Arthur Henry Hallam, who was also the inspiration for In Memoriam, Tennyson's most quoted from poem, perhaps. It's been argued that a major influence on the poem is or more major, I think, in its influence than Homer is Dante's treatment, where he has a negative view of Ulysses, and he condemns him for his desire to explore and seek adventure rather than to attend his duties at home in Ithaca. It seems self-evident to me that Tennyson takes entirely the opposite view. Whether this was in reaction to Dante or not, I'm not sure. But he seems to be fulsomely praising the continued heroic spirit of Ulysses towards the end of his life, where old he still seeks fresh seas to cross. I've had some close friends die in the last year, and it's almost as if the stars by which one had navigated had fallen from the sky, and one's forced to reorientate oneself to establish another world with other values to continue. And maybe such a sentiment is present in this poem as an effect of the loss of his friend, who had a great importance to him. I think Osred sees Odysseus and Odin as exhibiting similar virtues, and maybe Osred himself has done in the last 10 years, when he's continued unperturbed by the threat that he would die very shortly of cancer. In the poem, the Hyades are stars in the constellation of Taurus associated with rain, and the expression 3 suns, I think, means 3 years, not days. I wonder whether Michael in London, would you be able to read the poem, Michael?
Sure.
Excellent. Off you go.
It little profits that an idle king, by the still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I mete and dole on equal laws upon a savage race, that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the leaves. All times I have enjoyed greatly. have suffered greatly, both with those that love me and alone, on shore and when through the scudding drifts the rainy Hyades, vexed the dim sea. I am become a name, for always roaming with a hungry heart, much have I seen and known. Cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honored of them all. And drunk delight of battle with my peers, far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rest unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. Life piled on life were all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things, and vile it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself and this gray spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle, well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labor by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duties, decent not to fail, in offices of tenderness and pay, meet and adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. There lies the port, the vessel puffs her sail. There gloom the dark, broad seas, my mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine, and opposed free hearts, free foreheads. You and I are old. Old age hath yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all, but something ere the end, some work of noble note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks. The long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order smite the sounding furrows of my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now, that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield.
Thank you very much. No, I'm sorry, having some slight technical problems. Right, Alex, would you? I think it'd be nice to hear some music, but this would be the setting of this poem, which I think has got a similar flavour. Alex, could you read this?
I thought we were going to ask me to sing it.
Well,
I'll speak it. Blow, bugle, blow.
Cover off.
The splendour falls on castle walls and snowy summits old in story. The long light shakes across the lakes, and the wild cataract leaps in glory. Blow, bugle, blow, set the wild echoes flying. Blow, bugle, answer, echoes dying, dying, dying. Oh hark, oh hear, how thin and clear, and thinner, clearer, farther going. Oh sweet and far from cliff and scar, the horns of Elfland faintly blowing. Blow, let us hear the purple glens replying. Blow, bugle, answer, echoes, dying, dying, dying. O love, die in yon rich sky. They faint on hill or field or river. Our echoes roll from soul to soul and grow forever and forever. Blow, bugle, blow, set the wild echoes flying, and answer, echoes, answer, dying, dying, dying.
Thank you.
The splendor falls on castle walls, and snowy summits all in story. The long light shakes across the lakes, and the wild cattle leaps in glory. Blow, bugle, blow, set the wild echoes flying. Bugle, blow, answer, echoes, answer. Dying, 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 dying. Oh, hark, oh, hear how thin and clear, and thinner, clearer, farther going. Oh, sweet and far from cliff and sky, the horns of heaven faintly blowing. Blow, let us hear the purple glens replying. Bugle, blow, answer, echoes, answer. Dying, 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 dying. Oh, lovely night, the unlit sky, they fade on hill or field or river. Our echoes roll from soul to soul and grow forever and forever. Blow, bugle, blow, set the wild echoes flying, and answer, echoes, answer. Dying, 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 dying.
Yeah, I think it's one of the greatest settings of any poem. The two things seem so welded together, and yeah, I've not really appreciated how it can almost be taken like um, a representation of just the human life is the blow of a bugle, and the echoes are the effects we have on other people. But wonderful piece, wonderful piece. Tony, are you there? Would you? I'll stop sharing and you can say a few words.
Yes, I'm here. I've been fiddling with my sound system. That's why I went on mute.
No. Yeah. Is it possible? Yeah. Can people hear Tony? I'm. It's a bit. Yeah. It's a bit faint. If you can get near to the mic. Sorry.
Well, I don't understand.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Not too bad. Yeah.
We'll get the stuff sorted out sometime in the next decade or so. I first came into contact with Osred 7 or 8 years ago.
I think you'll have to move closer, Tony. I'm afraid. I think it's a bit faint. Sorry about that.
I don't know what happened to the sound. Right. I have a mic. It's not working again. What I was saying is that I first came into contact with Osred 7 or 8 years ago when I made an inquiry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
When I inquired about Odinism in Australia, we talked extensively. We started a couple of projects together, tried to set up a community centre in the countryside where we could have events and retreats and so on. It didn't come to much. We couldn't quite get enough community enthusiasm behind it. I came to know Osred very well over the next few years. I was privileged to become a friend of his, and we spent some time together. I've stayed at his house on several occasions, and his lovely wife Margaret, a most hospitable couple, very delightful to spend time with. I find Osred to be a very erudite, calm gentleman, very old school. I think that we don't produce so many characters like that as we used to. And very much in the tradition of Rudd Mills, as you quite correctly pointed out, he has copyright of Rudd Mills' works. He's been in contact with his descendants and is carrying that flame quite directly. Also, John Yowell, or otherwise known as Stubber, is someone close to Osred as well. He's very, very much in the foundation of modern Asatru or Odinism. When you spend time with him, you find that he's very deep-thinking and calm fellow. He's not a religious man in that he doesn't. There's no dogma. There's no organizational structure that he insists on. There's no. People are allowed to just be who they are and work themselves out. Something we call personal responsibility, I think. But what he does offer is guidance, words of wisdom, advice if asked. Otherwise, he quietly beavers away in the background, doing his research and presenting his works. Being a solid rock, the rest of us can operate around and be reliant on. Unfortunately, he's been very ill this last decade. As you pointed out, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. They wanted to essentially chop off half his face and throat, give him a lot of drugs, and give him a year to live. And he said no. He's been doing natural treatment ever since. He hasn't given up smoking his pipe. He also likes the odd tipple, usually the pipe and the tipple together. And these things haven't held him back or caused him to degenerate quickly. Quite the opposite, I think. He's probably not in very good health now. It is finally getting, I think, to a point where he's not comfortable. But it's been 10 good years of productivity and life. It has been a privilege to know him. I was professed by him in his yard one day 7 years ago, I think now, and it was a highlight for me. And in the time that I've been back in living in Europe, Margaret, his wife, and Osred have been constantly there for anything I needed, advice, help, mundane help or spiritual. I don't know any way to express how high I hold him in regard and esteem, and how privileged I have been to know the man.
Oh, that's a really wonderful testimony to him. He did visit this country, but for various reasons we didn't meet, which is a shame. But yeah, I have his books and I have his friendship, and that's important. Thanks very much, Tony. It's always good to hear the results of personal contact, isn't it? It's always good to hear that. Thank you. Now let's go back to. Now this is quite an unusual piece from his anthology, which I thought it would be good to read. As I'm supposed to be the Gothi here, perhaps I'll be the I shall read the role. Mick, I don't know. Would you like to be the voice of thousands and be the people? Mick, are you there? Mick, can you hear me, Mick? Okay, if I know he has to attend to his mother. Perhaps he's gone away. Michael in Germany, would you care to be the people?
Oh, sure.
Great. Woden, first to thee, a milk-white steed in battle won, we have sacrificed.
We have sacrificed.
Let our next oblation be to Thor, thy thundering son, of such another.
We have sacrificed.
A third of Friesland breed was he, to Woden's wife and to Thor's mother, and now we have atoned, all three.
We have sacrificed.
The white horse neighed aloud, to Woden thanks we render, to Woden we have vowed.
To Woden, our defender, thanks we render. Brave souls to be renowned in story, honor prizing, death despising, fame acquiring by expiring, die and reap the fruit of glory.
I call you all to Woden's hall, tour temples round with ivy bound, in goblets crowned, and plenteous bowls of burnished gold, where ye shall laugh and dance and quaff the juice that makes the Britons bold.
To Woden's hall all where, in plenteous bowls of burnished gold, we shall laugh and dance and quaff the juice that makes the Britons bold.
Thank you for warrior, someone. Mick, are you there? Maybe you can finish off with. If not, then who else would like to do it? Michael in London. Yeah.
Come if you dare, our trumpets sound. Come if you dare, the foes rebound. We come, we come, we come, we come, says the double beat of the thundering drum.
Thanks very much. That was a piece from King Arthur, the libretto by John Dryden and the music by Henry Purcell. A curious piece. Yeah. There'll be a question on that in the quiz. About what the two factions represent, the Britons and the Saxons, who were sort of engaged in these sort of drinking contests and fighting but through various means. Now, this is another poem in the anthology, an interesting one, because I wasn't aware that the author John Masefield held this belief so strongly. Now, Alex, would you like to read this?
Hello,
Alex?
can you hear me? Yes, I'm unmuted.
Great.
Yeah.
Masefield.
Okay. I hold that when a person dies, his soul returns again to earth, arrayed in some new flesh disguise. Another mother gives him birth. With sturdier limbs and brighter brain, the old soul takes the road again. Such is my own belief and trust. This hand that holds the pen, has many 100 times been dust, and turned as dust to dust again. These eyes of mine have blinked and shone in Thebes, in Troy, in Babylon. All that I rightly think or do, or make or spoil, or bless or blast, is curse or blessing justly due for sloth or effort in the past. My life's the statement of the sum of vice indulged or overcome. I know that in my lives to be, my sorry heart will ache and burn and worship unavailingly the woman whom I used to spurn and shake to see another have, the love I spurned, the love she gave. And I shall know in angry words, in jibes and mocks and many a tear, a carrion flock of homing birds, the jibes and scorns I uttered here. The brave word that I failed to speak will brand me dastard on the cheek. And as I wander on the roads, I shall be helped and healed and blessed. Dear words shall cheer and be as goads to urge to heights before unguessed. My road shall be the road I made, all that I gave shall be repaid. So shall I fight, so shall I tread in this long war beneath the stars. So shall a glory wreathe my head, so shall I faint and show the scars, until this case, this clogging mould, be smithed all to kingly gold.
Thank you very much, Alex. In the anthology, there are other texts that do show how pervasive and ancient the belief in reincarnation is in the European tradition. I think Osred has sort of quoted the sixth book of the Aeneid. And you know, he seems that he's very strong on giving prominence to this view, which even though it's different from the Christian Orthodoxy, is surprisingly widespread amongst many famous figures, and John Masefield no less. Now, Osred is an Australian, and now we should have an extract from one of the most significant poems by, I think, one of the most significant Australian poets. Kenneth Slessor is not a name that is known much here, but he is a big figure in Australia. There is a Kenneth Slessor Prize for Poetry named after him, and I think the streets and various schools and things like that. He was a war correspondent during the Second World War. Two contemporaries of Captain Cook are mentioned. Abel Tasman, the founder of Tasmania, and Louis Antoine de Bougainville. Both of these, as mariners, took the safe course and steered north, away from the mainland, rather than face the dangers of a lee shore when the ships could have been run aground. The only person here with an Australian voice, I think, means that I don't really need to mention the name of who I think should be reading this. Tony,
Well, there's another Anthony from Australia, isn't there?
I don't think he's on the call. I don't think he's on the call though. No.
Excellent. Can you hear me on microphone?
Yeah, just about.
I tried to set up the microphone again. I don't know if it's working as well as it was before.
Yeah, we can hear you okay. We can hear you okay.
On the other hand, I can't see the screen. So, 5 visions of Captain Cook. Captain Cook was a captain of the Admiralty. You can see captains had the evil eye, or should have, what with beating krakens off and casting nativities of ships. Cook was a captain of the powder days, when captains, you might have said, if you had been, fixed by their glittering stare, half down the side, or gaping at them up companionways, were more like warlocks than a humble man. And men were humble then who gazed at them, all horn-eyed sailors bullied by devil's fists, of wind or water, or the want of both, childlike and trusting, filled with eager trust. Cook was a captain of the sailing days, when sea captains were kings like this, not old executives of company rules or bidding their engineers go wink at bells and telegraphs so plates would hold another pound. Those captains drove their ships by their own blood, no laws of schoolbook steam, till yards were sprung and masts went overboard. Demons and periwigs doling magic out to read fair alphabets in the stars. Where humbler men found but a mess of sparks, who feared their crews by mysteries and strange, half dreadful sortilege with hooks. Use medicines that only gods would know the sense of, but sailors drank in simple faith. That was the Captain Cook. That was the Captain Cook was when he came to the Coral Sea and chose a passage into the dark. How many mariners had made that choice, paused on the brink of mystery? Choose now. The winds roared, blowing home, over the Coral Sea. Choose now, the trades cried once to Tasman, throwing him for choice. Their teeth or shoulders, and the Dutchman chose the wind's way, turning north. Choose Bougainville, the wind cried once, and Bougainville had heard the voice of God, calling him prudently out of the dead sea shore, and chose the north, the wind's way. So Cook made choice, over the brink into the devil's mouth, with 4 months' food and sailors' wild dreams of English beer, the smoking barns of home. So Cook made choice, so Cook sailed west about, so men write poems in Australia.
Thank you very much. Tony, are you familiar with this?
No, I'm not familiar with this, no.
Oh, right. Okay. I think it's a pretty good poem. Right, now I shall stop sharing and go down to the altar. Error Odin Kwas, Vedegata Kerk, Wingemedi Ark, Nachtig Ladenier, Gerder Undalder Vergevin Odin, Sjálfa Mer, of a Mezi and then give 8 Wester Rotten when we lady Mixali Nevis Honey, Mister Ek Nieder, Nameke Brunner Apendi Nam Telek auf der Fasan, Symbolios Neo, Nameke Bin Perges in die Bos und beste Vögel, auch ich trick auf Gattin, die von mir aus in Auswärts. Daar nam ik vast op voor de regel, op actie op wel hebben. Oors me af oorste, oots later day, werk me af werken, werks later day. Aerosol, wie gezien, dessa vogel. Het taucht niet hammer zin, zo gaat die terug in de os. Dessie, Orsis Helgus. Lautamos fylgja dýfa fortna dami með því að fortna, der oss inni og uti. Þess til úr sjálfum sér að framfara gegna skyldu síni og hafin yfir hæmisbin versa til salu og sundar. Við byggjumst afsökunar að syndum var, kunningum og ókunningum, nýlega og afi í aldri. Takk fyrir miskunnina sem við ómaklegir þeirra. Heil aðir, heil ásynja, heil sjá fórnum fólk. Hail Odin, God of gods, he who wanders the world seeking knowledge, guardian of the folk and tradition, protector of the homeland and the dwelling of the gods against invasion and evil, co-creator of modern man, oath keeper, lawmaker, lord of the howling wind. Hail Odin, lord of wolves, raven master, spirit of eagle, leader of the wild hunt, host of fury, god of poetry, literature, and the well-spoken word. Father of knowledge, all-wise, all-seeing, rune master, high one of Valhalla, father of Valkyries, collector of the dead, guardian of righteous souls, high judge at the day of doom. Hail Odin, ward of the world tree, god of fatherhood, defender of families and homes, lord of nations, lord of ancestors, god of cargoes, lord of business, god of political power, god of the thing and of the court, lord of shamans, lord of the gallows, one-eyed god, lord of sacrifice, lord of the afterlife. Seek, Father, and all of your aids, as thanks for your wisdom, protection, and all the other gifts you have freely given our folk, your children down through the ages. We offer you our worship in sincerity and loyalty for all you have dispensed, whether or not we knew it was from you, or whether or not it was what we thought we wanted at the time. Heili forfædrer aldra sem viðstaddir, þeir sem við þekktum og þeir sem dó áður en við fæddumst. Heiltid nýfarna fólk, heilig þeir lifendur, hvers kyns og hverrar stöðu. Í nærveru Gyðjur skulum við minnast hvers sem við þekkjum sem þjást af heilsubrest. Helsa þjóðhöfðingja þessa lands, Elisabethu drottningu og fjölskyldunni hennar og fyrir alla sem stjórna löndum okkar og lýst með embætti sínu eða áhrifum bæði hérlendis og erlendis. Megi þeir eins og þeir heyra rættir þínar og breytast við. Hail Osred. How your work, how its influence. How. Dóir fear, dóir franda, dóir sjálva upp sama. Ein åtstyr dóir aldrig prema sig góðum geta. Dóir fear, dóir franda, dóir sjálva upp sama. Ik weet één at aldrig dóir dóma dáðan fear. Sigur either, sigur either, sigur os, Cuido either, cuido os, cuido os. Michael, hello. Yeah, the baton is passed to you.
Not with you. Or are you talking to Michael?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you. If you prepared something for.
No, instead I sent you a mail saying.
I didn't read that.
Oh, read it. Yeah, sorry.
Oh. Not a problem. Not a problem. Sorry, that's my.
Two slain by the culturally induced manipulation of nature and the corresponding virus to be able to write about it at the moment. I hope next time to be back in form.
The silence, therefore, is eloquent of that. So, I think that is what words are unnecessary. Silence is good. All right. In that case, Michael, do you want to say anything at all? You're Michael in London. You're welcome to.
No, I don't have anything in particular to say.
But as the most senior person here, we are receptive to your thoughts.
Well, all right. I mean, I think almost everyone, terribly upset and depressed over the Ukrainian situation.
Absolutely, yeah.
I can only hope that the people of Russia can protest strongly enough, possibly even to get Putin out of power. I mean, I would love to see him in The Hague. I think that's where he belongs, and I really sympathize for the Ukrainian people. I think they're being incredibly brave, and beyond that, I have finished reading Roberto Calasso's Ardor. I found it fascinating. I don't agree with him at all. He really exalts the Brahmanas, and he always refers to it as Vedic religiosity, which I think is incorrect, because I think Vedic religiosity would be what you find in the older portions of the Rig Veda and the greater portion of the Rig Veda. And you can see in the very later hymns, especially in the 10th mandala, the reworking of the earlier, more earth-centered, nature-centered understandings of spirituality into something much more transcendental, much more desiring of transcending, getting away from the earth, ending any possibility of reincarnation, which I think from a pagan perspective was something that was welcomed because of the joy of the earth and the desire to be reborn on earth. But with the transcendental twist that the Brahmins did, and they were very clever and they could write, and they wrote themselves into first place, and then got really obsessed with ritual to a degree that Colossal says that this is the ultimate of ritual, that what the Brahmanas encode and describe, and that the rest of us have all fallen away from that, or only have pieces of it. there's a very kind of exact procedure. Everything becomes questioned, and then the question becomes re-questioned, and so on and so on. And there's no real end to it. And so it's fascinating. It's a fascinating read. But it's something I find it doesn't resonate with me, and it doesn't resonate with my understanding of the gods. The gods are kind of secondary in the Brahmanyas, and they're made inferior. You have the rishis, and then you have Prajapati, who becomes kind of like a supreme being. He wasn't originally. He was really an epithet of some of the older Rig Vedic gods originally, and so the idea of the gods being kind of almost in opposition to humankind is something that I don't feel that. It's not my experience. So I had a lot of trouble with that. And somehow being enmeshed in that right now, vis-a-vis the whole Ukrainian situation and the ineptitude of humanity, and it's on all sides. I think I will blame the U.S. as much for the whole Ukrainian situation as almost anyone else. And I think that comes from our loss of understanding what organic life is about, what working with each other and with the natural world as part of the natural world. I think since we have lost that in our contemporary society, I think these problems are what arise because of that. And I'm hoping that we can start waking up. Maybe this whole Ukrainian thing will be the real wake up. I mean, we had a World War I, which was supposed to have been the worst of ever, but then World War II. And how many more do we have to have before we finally learn our lesson and have a different world and save what we can save of it? So that's what I have.
No, so thanks very much, Michael. Appreciate what you said. It is difficult to avoid what's happening in Eastern Europe. On Friday, I was at the local shaka, and the Pacharak of the UK, that's to say the someone who's kind of taken monastic vows and works for the organisation, and he gave a brief talk about mentioning the conflict, and he just said, I thought it's very obvious, but it's worth saying. You know, in the world, power is absolutely essential. You need to have power. You need to have power. However, you also need to have dharma. You need to have the sense of what's the right in relation to the natural order of things. And power without dharma is destructive, and it's frightening. I think that's a very valid point. We must ensure that these things can't easily happen again, which is almost impossible to ensure. But thank you. I think we will perhaps move to closing the Vey. So we will do that. What is that? Okay, Tony? Yeah, I'll do the screen share. Från Bittun renest vinnersalar med munum sigurð hafa að sjálfum sér. En huna ekki vinnur hennar meðal þeirra hafa ekki sigurð að sjálfum sér.
Those who have conquered their mind, it will prove to be one of their greatest friends. For those who have failed to do so, it will prove to be one of their greatest enemies. Med alla galdiga Gudi Asgards och Vanaheits. Han har bästet att Roxet sitt på väldigt säl. Verstoppen ik het verleden helderina dessa stava, och verdum kelger. Anna i sudri, i minudere, Freya, Frey, verum fixeo. Verstoppen ik het verleden helderina dessa stava, och verdum kelger. Anna ad alsta, ac betengere. Nana, Balder, verum fixeo. Verstoppen ik het verleden helderina dessa stava, och verdum kelger. Anna i nordri, i sunset. Frigg, Odin, verum fixeo. Verstoppen ik het verleden helderina dessa stava, och verdum kelger.
Brotinu lochus tot verre. Thank you everyone for participating, for reading, and yeah, joining today, spending some portion of your Sunday. I don't know how many people will be staying for the quiz, but we do have a few questions. Michael, I presume that you don't therefore have any.
That's right, because
No,
you
it's not.
said
It's not a problem. It's not a problem.
I'll say goodbye.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye, Michael. Bye.
Sorry, I'm not going to stay because I've got to go off and do this page turning. So I've got
Okay.
to back for that.
Oh, okay. I mean, if there is such a low, we can maybe keep the things over, keep the questions over, or maybe. I think just a bit of fun, I suppose. Who said this in relation to reincarnation? Well, yeah, obviously. In contrast to reincarnation and karma, all other views seem petty and narrow. I will give a big clue. This person is a very prominent, no, prominent's not the word, a very famous composer in the history of Western music. In contrast to reincarnation and karma, all other views seem petty and narrow. A big.
yeah, everybody can.
Yeah.
I'll say Gustav Holst.
Okay, Alex.
Oh, I don't know.
You do know this. I mean, this is a big figure.
So it must be someone quite modern.
Why is that?
Because people didn't talk about reincarnation.
No. I mean that's not. I mean Plato speaks about it. I mean it's been present in European civilization.
Clue out of all the composers, it might have been.
Tony. You don't.
It was working yesterday when we tried this thing out, wasn't it? I have absolutely no idea who you're talking about.
Okay, I'll give a big clue. He was a composer, but he also was a thinker, and his works were based on either stories or narratives that served some philosophical purpose. He was very influenced by this will be an open goal, Schopenhauer.
Oh, okay, but now you've given it away. Yeah, it's obviously Wagner.
Yeah, Wagner.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was quite an interesting quote. Not obviously associated. You wouldn't obviously get that. You wouldn't think it was Wagner, would you? Someone who said, in contrast to reincarnation and karma, all other views seem petty and narrow. It's an interesting quote, isn't it? Interesting. Good. All right. Well, Yeah, Mike, I hope you feel fighting fit at the end of next month, and I'm sure
Yes.
you will. These things go on, don't they?
They,
You know.
well, they go on, but hopefully they go away as well.
Yeah,
I
they
feel
go on
that
to plague someone else. Yeah.
over 2 weeks, I feel I've done my stint of COVID, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's not long COVID, which I know.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I'm sort of mildly optimistic of things. I do begin to feel a bit better. And the great advantage of COVID was having low blood pressure, and my blood pressure is going up to the normal dangerous level. So that probably means I'm going back to normal.
Good. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty bizarre experience.
I think. Yeah. Yeah, just a final one on this. I think this is also really quite curious. I adopted the theory of reincarnation when I was 26. Work is futile if we cannot utilize the experience we collect in one life in the next. When I discovered reincarnation, it was as if I'd found a universal plan. Time was no longer limited. I was no longer a slave to the hands of the clock. Genius is experience. It's the fruit of long experience in many lives. The discovery of reincarnation put my mind at ease. This is a curious one. The results of this man's vision are everywhere to be seen.
Oh.
He was someone that was lived later than Wagner, but sort of not that much later. He was the pioneer of something, and yeah, he's known for a certain kind of means from getting from A to B. Because I don't think you would perhaps.
Not Henry Ford, is it?
Yes, yeah. Well done, Mick. Well done. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting quote. I always thought of him as maybe not being someone that would have thought.
He's not associated with any sort of spirituality at all.
No. That's curious, isn't it? That's curious, but that's good. All right then. Yeah, very nice to see everyone. Yeah, Alex. I should have got you to sing the Benjamin Britten, shouldn't I? Yeah. It's a wonderful song.
It's horrifically hard, doesn't it?
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
A brilliant piece. Wow.
But yeah, I mean the horn playing is very difficult. I think.
Oh, that sounded really hard. I noticed that.
Yeah. I don't know whether it was written for a natural horn or not, but I think it might have been. It was Dennis Brain in the famous recording with Peter Pears, and you could hear the white noise from the vinyl. Really. All right then. I think I can bid everyone a nice Sunday. I mean the sun is shining here, so I think it's a good time to go out and get some fresh air. But dear Tony, we always have a certain amount of technical problems. It's the whole fight against the giants, the gods against the Jotuns. We just must press on.
At the beginning of the session, it was working.
Yeah. I should get a microphone. I think that'd be a good thing as well.
I did. It didn't help. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Yes,
Bye-bye,
goodbye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.